What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new week, new videos. Today's Monday, and yeah, it's been a crazy last few days. Purim was on Thursday night, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, parties and avodah and big things, and we're still recovering a bit. Baruch Hashem, we're a little bit back to normal now, so we're going to continue with the video that we started a few weeks ago. Not a few weeks ago, I think the week before last week, about Rav Shmuel Horowitz, his journey to Uman from Eretz Yisrael. And if you didn't watch the first video, you should watch the first video to get a little bit of background on who Rav Shmuel Horowitz was, and where we are in the story now. And basically, just to give a short introduction right before we start the second video on this thing to continue the story of how he got to Uman, is just basically Rav Shmuel Horowitz lived in Israel. He lived in Tzfat. He was born in Tzfat. He lived in Yerushalayim. He had, after he got married, his wife left him. They took away his wife because he was Breslov and everything like that. And he's a very serious Eved Hashem. And he decided that nothing's really happening with him and his wife getting back together. There was a lot of people involved trying to help them, whatever. He decided that he's just going to go to Uman, and he went to Poland first to meet the Breslovers there in Lublin and in Warsaw, different things like that. And obviously back then the border was closed by the USSR or whatever, Russia, whatever they called it back then, the Iron Curtain or whatever. And yeah, you cannot get through at all, so you have to jump the border. And there was a thing by the Breslovers back then that you did not try to do that because it would put everybody in danger. But he decided he's going to do it in secret anyway. And that's where we basically are in the story, is that he collected money and he's traveling to different cities to try to get close to the border. And he finally found, close to the border, he finally found one of these guys, the people who help you cross the border illegally. What's it called? And he found him, and he said that he wanted $60 for him to cross the border, which he did not have. So he had to go back. And that's where we left off last week. So that's where we are now. So he says over here that I was forced to go back to get more money. And I came to the city of Rovna, Parshas B'Shalach, and I was there for Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, which was Tu B'Shvat, Tazayin B'Shvat, which was his birthday. It was made known to me from the wife of Rav Shmuel. This is Rav Shmuel, one of the Breslovers who lived in the city of Rovna, that he crossed the border to go to Uman, and he's there without any possibility of getting back to his house. And I guess he heard about this lady, so he went to her. Rav Shmuel Horowitz went to this Rebbitzin, and she told me that there's one guy who does the border crossings illegally. That's what she was saying. That he said that there's one guy who does this, and that she wanted me, that when I cross the border, this same guy who's going to cross the border, right, when I cross into Russia, so this guy should also bring back Rabbi Moshe Shmuel, who's waiting there, right? And they called this guy, this border crossing dude, and I made a deal with him for $60 that he will take me into Russia until a certain city, and from there, this guy, Rabbi Moshe Shmuel, will be waiting. So they have this little plan hatched to get this guy back to his wife and to Rav Shmuel Horowitz getting into Russia to go to Uman. Fine, so that was the deal. So he said, so now Rav Shmuel Horowitz says, okay, so I came back and I came to Lublin. And then they told me again another piece of information that Rabbi Label Rosenfeld came from Eretz Yisrael, and I went to Warsaw. What's it called? And I got all the money that I had by Rabbi Aaron Leib Zickelman, all my clothing, everything that I had stored there by him. and I told him that I'm going to Eretz Yisrael, back home. Right? I also, after I took my money from him, right, I still was missing some of the money to get the $60 to cross the border. So I went more and more and more to different kibbutzim of Breslovers all over the Poland area to get money. And I had a lot of suffering and a lot of fears and a lot of things. He said he writes over here that there's a lot to tell over, but it's not the right time right now. And he said that it was freezing then also. He said it was 40 years that it was never as cold as that it was in Poland when he was traveling around. So that obviously added to his situation. That was a little bit more intense. Just take a little sip over here of coffee. Obviously made a bracha beforehand. So I came back to Lublin and I was there for Shabbos. And Motzei Shabbos Kodesh was Rish Chodesh Adar Aleph, the first Adar. So obviously that type of year when there's two Adars. And I learned Torah there, and I slept by Rabbi Moshe Aaron Cohen, who lived next to the train station. And he bought me a ticket to Roivna. I came back to Roivna, and it was freezing, and I was in the house of the son-in-law of Rabbi Moshe Shmuel, who was waiting on the other side of the border to come back. That's where I stayed for 5 weeks. He stayed there for 5 weeks, like with a lot of yisurim and not a lot of space and whatever. And he said, all these embarrassments, all these things that they were saying, I guess they were angry at Rabbi Moshe that he left to go to Uman and he was never able to come back now. They were just putting it on me and like making me feel bad that like you're going to also go to Uman. I guess that's what he's trying to say here. He said, who could imagine what was going, was happening to me, and that I was able to actually handle this. And not only that, when I came back to Roivna, my visa already expired. But I found someone there to help me to lengthen the visa, and this was a big nace, and I had to bring a few people to be the oirev on it. Itzel ha-shtristoiver, the hainumaracha visa. I guess the guy who worked in the government office, he had to bring people that would vouch for him that he's doing this and that, whatever. He has a good reason to be there. Also, he was scared because this guy was like one of the border guards ish, and he was very scared that what if he sees me trying to cross the border? Like obviously I'll get into even super duper trouble. So he has a lot of yisurim going on. He's still trying to figure out a way to get to the border. It's freezing cold. He said it was a nace that I didn't freeze, right? And I didn't choke from all the smoke of the fire that was in the house where I was staying. He says, but even so, in the second Adar, right before Purim, we started going on the Gvul, and it was this fear that I had. It's impossible to even explain, because they also were telling us about these wild animals that were in the forest there. He said that there was a story of a paretz echad who was going on his wagon in the yard with his whole family, and these wolves came and ripped them apart, and only their shoes were left over. So he was very scared, Rav Shmuel Horowitz. But he mamish went with the real mysterious nefesh over here. And on the way to the Gvul, like they were very close to the Gvul, the border guards over there grabbed them. They were like, what are you doing? And everything. Like they knew that they were going to obviously try to cross the border. So we had to bribe them with money. And I gave them all the money that I had. And I also had to promise them that I would never ever try to cross the border. And they sent me all the way back to Lublin. And I came back to Lublin for Purim without any money. So he kept on trying. You see, he's like, it's crazy. He tried one time, sent back. He had to get more money. Now he finally comes back with more money. He gets caught. He has to get sent back again. Now he has no money at all. He says also over here that he was also now on the yard site of Rav Elimelech of Lezhensk, which is right after Purim, Chaf Aleph Adar, together with Anshe Shomenu, with the Breslovers. And afterwards I was in Krakow, and for Pesach I went back to Lublin, and again my visa expired, and I didn't have any money, and I wasn't able to tell any of the Breslovers why I didn't have any money, because they all thought that I had money, and why was I still here if I'm going back to Eretz Yisrael. And there's just a lot going on over here. And I worked it out with somebody else to again extend his visa, my visa, whatever, v'dachu hazeh, until the 1st of May. They were going to be able to extend it. Yevshar l'shayr v'shmati ozi lodim loidim eitzor Rabbi Cheskel Shmilas Yonason b'chag ve'asela perish Rashi Shamayin Sham. And that pasuk was kind of said on him. Okay, fine. Let's keep on going a little bit over here. We're almost there. I mean, it's a long story, so it's going to probably take a few videos, but it's cool because it's just so much interesting information over there. I'll go upon him. It was a big event just to extend this visa. I guess there was because there was the Israeli thing over there. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know how half of these things mean over here, but he was able to extend his visa until the first half of Menachem Av, until the month of Av. Then Rav Shmuel Horowitz says over here now that he also started having an asik with the Rabbanim in Lublin. That they got michtavim from the Rabbanim in Yerushalayim that I'm supposed to go and give a get to my wife. Right? And because obviously I ran away to Uman, so obviously the family was not happy. I'm just saying because I'm just reading it out how he's saying it. But yeah, I'm not in Uman right now. Just to hope you guys know that. Anyway, Rabbi Yitzchak Meir said that I shouldn't give it yet, and the Rabbanim were very angry, and they wanted to hand it over to the government. He said, after Pesach, I went again around the country of Poland to get more money to try to cross the border, and I was in Krakow for Lag Baimer, and then from there I went to Lodz. I was there for a little bit, but I didn't get any money. And again, I spoke to this guy, Rabbi Berish, who wanted to also cross the border. He was the only guy who who knew that he was trying to cross the border. And we decided that we're going to go again after Shavuos to the border. And I went to the city of Petrikov, and on the way there, I had big Yisurim. I was almost Michal Shabbos, something V'achach Nesati Lublin, and I went back to Lublin with the train, and I also had more Yisurim. And on the way, I came to a small city, and I saw there Rabbi Moshe Eliezer Rothenberg. And from there, I went to Lublin for Shavuos. And everything that I've done now is just he's basically saying that all these travels, everything was just to get me ready to get to Uman. Everything was just to keep on sharpening me and to keep on, to take away all the sheker. Everything was just so real, So that's what he was doing. Basiel Shavuos Lublin, and I came for Shavuos to Lublin, and it was from Hashem that also Rabbi Ben Zion Apter and Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Mikroshnik also came to Lublin for Shavuos. I think they lived in Lodz. They were also big Breslovers. Be'erev Shavuos, I was with Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac on the Tzion of the Chayze of Lublin. I told him everything, that I wanted to go to Uman, and we made a deal between us to daven for each other, and he was also going to help me with whatever he can. And he was one of the only ones from all the chassidei Breslov in Poland, except for Rabbi Berish, who knew about my travels. Then came another letter from the Breslovers in Yerushalayim that were very, very angry about him, that oh, he went to Uman and he's left his wife, and now everyone's going to be bothering the Breslovers in Yerushalayim. Like, what about you guys? Why aren't you guys doing anything? What's wrong with you? Breslovers, you crazy, whatever, all that. And also, more letters came from other people that they should do everything that they possibly can to send me back to Eretz HaKodesh. And all the Rabbanim were very, very angry at me, and they wanted to do bad things to me. So after Shavuos, I started going again to collect more money, to go over the Gvul. And I went to the city of Kroishnik, and I was there for a little bit of time. From Kroishnik, I went to the city of Yanov, and from there to the city of Prampol. I came on Friday to the city of Ludmir, and I was on the Tzion over there on the caver of Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin. This was on the day of Chav Sivan. And then I went to the city of Kovel, which was close to the border, if I remember correctly. And then from there, Vishom Kvar Hoyer Rabbi Berish, Rabbi Berish was already there. And I was there by Rabbi Avram Abba al Shabbos. After Shabbos, we went from Kfar to Kfar until we came to the city of Alek. And from Alek, we went to the city of Roivna. And from there, we went to the city of Karetz. And he says, and all these travels, everything happened just in those, again, these travels, it's impossible just to tell over because there's so much that happened. And in Karetz, I guess, which was closer to the border, we got separated. We were there for 4 weeks. And we could not find this guy who was going to cross us the border because the government killed all of them. Just a regular day in Russia. And we went from there to Mezrich, and we were there until after Tisha B'Av, and we made chakiras, and we investigated, and we davened, and we cried. He's like, he had a lot riding on his shoulders over here. He had people in Yerushalayim angry at him, he had people in Poland angry at him, he had people thinking he's going there, this, that. He said, and my soul was broken, you can't even explain. And I think that is where we will stop today, because I think the next video will be where they actually cross the border. So we're going to stop here today, and we will continue next week. I hope you guys enjoyed that.